Hey, I'm Stacy Lane Wilson, here for This Week in Horror, and I am standing in front of a mansion that Harry Houdini might have rather enjoyed, and it's making me feel a little insidious.
There is something in there with him.
I'm here with James Wan and Leigh Whannell, and we're here to talk about Insidious.
It was an idea that Leigh and I have had since even before Saw came around, and we've always we've always been big fans of haunted ghost stories, and when we were deciding which particular film to go with, we cooked up this idea, and we also cooked up the idea for a story about two guys stuck in a bathroom, and we went with that one instead.
I'm glad we went for the bathroom idea.
Now, you do have some great sort of scenes here with seances, and was that something that was like a dream project to write for horror fans?
Seance is always awesome in a scary movie, because if done right, they're very frightening. They're really creepy, especially since seance is something that a lot of kids have tried to play with since they're very young, and you always hear stories of people doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and they end up reaching out to something out there that they shouldn't be reaching out to, and it's that idea, that sort of chilling concept that Leigh and I wanted to play up on.
What does it feel like, actually, to know that you sort of spawned a whole genre of torture porn, which is not necessarily, that kind of happened after 2, 3, 4. It wasn't really in your film.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first Saw film was a lot more about atmosphere. It had less of the gore and the traps, so to speak, that the series became known for. And then, of course, as the sequels progressed, the law of sequels, where it's got to be more and bigger, applies. And then, as they made more and more sequels and got up to 5, 6, and 7, it started to really get full on. So, I think that it was interesting for James and I to watch it, to watch the franchise get branded with this particular brush. But at the same time, it's fine. I think the producers, Mark and Oren, did a great job with the films, giving the fans what they wanted. The fans of the Saw films love the series. They love the way the narrative is intertwining and the characters return. And James and I, we have nothing but affection for it.
Now, James, you have yet to do a sequel. Is this something that's a really conscious decision, or if there were to be another Insidious, would you be into exploring those realms again?
I felt with Saw, I didn't really want to repeat myself. I felt like after I made the first one, I had already told the story I wanted to tell, and there was really no reason to kind of come back to it. And I don't want to talk about sequels to a film that hasn't come out yet. Seems kind of silly, and Leigh and I are very superstitious, so...
Yeah, we are at the Magic Castle, so there is... We should point that out. This is one of the greatest places in the world.
This is super cool. This is my first time here, and it's exciting. So, guys, we have like the whole Magic Castle to shoot, and you decided to shoot like a big close-up against just a white velvet.
Well, Houdini is hiding back there right now.
Hiding back there. Believe me, right behind you guys is an amazing tableau of magic and sorcery, but you won't be seeing it. You'll be seeing us wedged into a doorway here, like a couple of orphans asking for bread.
Now, I'm curious to know about the casting of this, and you play a great sort of a ghostbuster in this, but you've also got a few other people in the film. Can you talk a little bit about... Really?
All I remember is Leigh, who played the ghost hunter, and who else was in it?
Well, there was supporting cast to your main lead character.
The other supporting actors?
The other supporting actors were people like Rose Byrne, Patrick Wilson, and Barbara Hershey, and of course the great Lin Shaye, which is great because generally when you make genre films, people want to stay away from that. For some reason, there's this sort of highbrow thing where people kind of look down on scary movies, and I think compliment to Leigh here for writing a great script that people did not look at Insidious, when they read the script, they didn't look at it like it was just another horror film. If anything, Patrick Wilson said it best. He said that to him it was a drama script that just so happened to deal with the supernatural. It's a drama story about a family dealing with all these stuff that are happening around them, and it just so happens that the things that are happening around them are spooky stuff.
Very spooky indeed. In fact, the man with fire in his face is pretty scary. When you sort of have to conceive of a new villain, where do you go to get that?
James and I usually just kind of work out the story first. That's the most important thing, is to have this foundation that is strong, so we start with that always, and then as the process goes on, we start to add in our little flourishes, and then by the time the film's shooting, it's like, I'd like to think that our stamp and our trademark is embedded in the film. So it kind of comes later. Usually James will call me up and say, so I want this guy to look like this. And I'm usually the one who's more timid about that stuff. I'll be like, oh, wow, I don't know about that. But, I trust James. And then sure enough, this stuff ends up becoming iconic. Even with the Saw doll, I remember at first thinking, I don't know about that. But then, of course, now the doll is the highest paid actor in the film. And so it's good. It's good. It's kind of how we work together. I think that we work well together because we're like adding our own flavor to this thing that we're working on, and
this thing that is so established, that's been around for a long time, especially when you're dealing with the haunted house genre. It's so rigid. It's been around for a while, and that's actually part of the fun that Lee and I really wanted to do, was take this thing that people think they're familiar with and just really kind of mess with it and bring our own stamp to it, and the example that Lee and I like to cite is the seance sequence. We've seen seance sequences in scary movies a lot, but you haven't seen it like this, in this fashion. So that's really what Lee and I like to do, is take something that and just kind of like subvert it or give it a new twist.
It's kind of like the Magic Castle. It's like different and new. You won't be finding that out.
No, we got B-roll. Yeah. It's called B-roll.
Oh, all right.
So when they're interviewing us, they're actually cutting around. They're cutaway shots
I'm
to see what's going on.
in the famous Australian illusionist. I don't know if the camera can just swing over there.
They don't need to swing. They can just cut to it later.
Really?
Yeah, do pickups.
See, he's always directing. No, look, man, I like to get all my coverage in one shot, all right? I'm directing this film, not you.
You want to go for that Paul Greengrass sort of like
yeah.
swinging back and forth look.
Shaky cam. That's it. Now you're talking. That's how we want to do this whole interview, man.
Lee should play this as like Jason Bourne, I think.
Wait, I need a toaster to fight you guys with, though. I did a set visit on Dead Silence.
She had no children, only dolls.
In Toronto, and I remember speaking with you there, James, and you were talking about how Poltergeist was one of your favorite films of all time, space, and dimension. Now, there is sort of a poltergeisty feel to this. Now, how much of that was sort of self-aware, and how much of it was organic?
I'm not quite sure. When people make the comparison to Poltergeist, which is, I guess, the most immediate comparison, because you have a movie here that takes place in a scary house with a family unit, and then a medium and her psychic ghost hunter show up. And so the natural inclination is to kind of that's the closest movie that people would kind of relate it to. Though Lee and I have pointed out that the whole idea of medium and psychic in a scary house, trying to work out things in a scary house, is a very established convention. Not just in movies, but more if you look at a lot of reality TVs. What do they do if a place is haunted and a family wants to know what spirit lives in their house? They call a medium. They call it psychic, right?
But I think Poltergeist is the most popular, so people go to that. That's the one they remember.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And but I actually still stand by it that you look at all the reality TV shows like Paranormal State, Ghost Hunters. They bring mediums into these locations, and they bring up paranormal investigators into it. So if people make that connection to Poltergeist, I'm cool with that because that's one of my favorite films. That's one of my favorite scary movies. But I know for Lee, he didn't come from that world. So I kind of don't want to shortchange what Lee had done there because he worked really hard to try and come up with a concept that was that was a bit different, and the conceit that we came up with which was the conceit that we came up a while ago, is what ultimately make this movie go, okay, it is a haunted house film, but the haunting doesn't necessarily come from the house itself, which we don't want to talk about.
Any parting shots, guys?
Parting shots? Well, who do we want to take a parting shot at? Dick Cheney, he's finished. He's out of office. He can't do anything anymore.
April 1st.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.